Hey guys, this is Pastor Dave. Welcome to another midweek chat. I hope all is well with you and your loved ones. First Chronicles may not be your favorite book of the Bible, and it may not be a book of the Bible that you look forward to reading. But if you skip First Chronicles, you will miss the prayer of a man named Jabez. Before we consider his prayer, know something about the man. In the New International Encyclopedia of Bible Characters, edited by Paul D. Gardner, is this information. Jabez means pain, sorrow, and he seems to have lived in dread that his name would be prophetic, a case of coming events casting their shadow before them. So he prayed about it, and God granted his request. It was an inherited problem, but prayer solved it. Jabez was also aware of material need. For some reason, he needed more land, and prayer solved this too. God granted his request. All our needs, however this worldly, are God's concerns. In addition, Jabez knew that he needed God to be with him, and so he prayed, "Let your hand be with me," the personal presence of God in power. And this also God granted. We do not have because we do not ask. James 4:2. And that's the end of that quote. Now, let's consider the prayer of Jabez itself in 1 Chronicles chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. Now Jabez was more honorable than his brothers, and his mother called his name Jabez, saying, "Because I bore him in pain." And Jabez called on the God of Israel, saying, "Oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my territory, that your hand would be with me, and that you would keep me from evil, that I may not cause pain." So God granted him what he requested. During my personal prayer time in the mornings, and this would be the normal time that I have that I carve out this time to pray. I quote Bible verses, and I quote verses like 1 John 1:9, 1 John 1:7. If any man, another quote, I pray for wisdom. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God. I quote in my prayer time, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer." And the prayer of Jabez is also a text that I quote. I think it's good to quote Bible verses within the context of your prayer time. And if you do that constantly every day, there's a good chance you won't forget them. And thy word have I hid in mine heart, that I might not sin against thee. The first part, really the prayer of Jabez, can be broken up into 4 parts, and I'm only going to share the first part today, and that is, "Bless me indeed." I think I speak for you when I say I want the blessings of God upon my life, and I'm sure you do too. I really want God's blessings on my life. And in the Disciples' Study Bible are these words concerning verses 9 and 10 of 1 Chronicles. God visits individuals whose commitment to his principles and purposes make them recipients of his presence and care in special ways. Jabez is singled out as one whom God prospered for his faithfulness. His prayer led to God's actions, giving him hope. End of quote. Now, I want you to please give attention to this question. Please give attention to this question. Is your life in a position to be blessed? When we approach the Lord's Supper, and we're doing that normally the first Sunday of every month now, it's very important for the believer to examine themselves. 1 Corinthians 11:27 and 28 says, Therefore, whoever eats this bread or drinks this cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of the bread and drink of the cup. It's a very dangerous thing for a believer, and the Lord's Supper is for believers. It's a very dangerous thing for a believer to take the Lord's Supper when they know that they're living in willful disobedience. And if you're living in known sin, how can you expect God's blessings when your life is in willful rebellion against Him? Examine yourself. After all, Psalm 66:18 says, "If I regard iniquity in my heart, the Lord will not hear me." Take serious inventory of your conduct and see if you're living a life that is not in harmony with God's will for you. God blesses those who honor Him with their lives. And the big question is, are you really honoring the Lord with your life? Is there unconfessed sin? Are you living willingly, knowing better? Are you living willingly a life that is not in harmony with God's will? Well, the good news is that you can be in harmony with God's will. You can be in the position of blessing like Jabez was if you claim 1 John 1:9. If I confess my sins, He is faithful and just to forgive me of my sins and to cleanse me from all unrighteousness. Why not, when I finish this chat, you go before the Lord and even ask Him to search your heart, to ask the Lord, is there any iniquity in my heart, so that you will hear me? And I believe that that will be a very healthy thing for you to do. We want to be sure that there is no unconfessed sin in our life. And so get on blessing ground. 1 John 1:9 can take you to that blessing ground. More about the prayer of Jabez next week. See you then.